Mr. Brennan,
Present.
Mr. Rickman,
Aye, here.
Mr. McDowell,
Yes.
Mr. Duval,
Present.
Ms. Devine,
Here.
Mr. Davis,
Here.
Mayor Benjamin.
Present. I apologize. Ms. McDowell, give us a word.
Yes. Lord, for all that you've done for us today, for the many blessings you've allowed us to share in. Your grace and your mercy allows us to be a part of this gathering today. Our prayer today is that you might continue to bless the city. Bless us who sit around this table to decide policies. Create within us reasonable spirits, a spirit of inclusivity, where all of us are a part of the greater whole. Touch us individually and yet collectively, allowing us to sense your nearness. We ask it, we claim it in your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. If the adoption of the agenda is an amendment to the agenda,
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I move up the agenda with the addition of item number 35A, discussion of employment of an employee pursuant to SC Code 30-4-70A2 Municipal Court.
thank you. Any other amendments to the agenda? Seeing none, second the motion. We'll move the previous question. Clerk call roll.
Mr. Brennan,
Yes.
Mr. Rickman,
Aye.
Mr. McDowell,
Yes.
Duval,
Aye.
Ms. Devine,
Aye.
Mr. Davis,
Away from the, keep on going, Madam Clerk.
Mayor Benjamin.
Aye.
What I?
All right. Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the May 18th, 2021 meeting?
Move.
All right, it's moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to the previous question. Clerk call roll.
Mr. Brennan,
Yes.
Mr. Rickman,
Aye.
Mr. McDowell,
Yes.
Mr. Duval,
Aye.
Devine,
Aye.
Mr. Davis,
Aye.
Mayor Benjamin.
Aye. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
Madam City Manager.
Yes, sir. Mayor Benjamin and Council, at this point, we will move into a period of discussion and action items. Item 2 is the COVID-19 update. The Honorable Mayor Stephen K. Benjamin, and of course, our normal situational report to be given by Mr. Harry Tinsley, Emergency Management Director.
Really excited. I'll be very brief about moving forward with It's Your Shot, our city effort to encourage vaccinations. I think we're seeing some encouraging trends. 42%, I believe, of Richland County residents have either been fully vaccinated or gotten their first shot towards being fully vaccinated. We're going in the right direction, as Director Tinsley will tell you. I think our most recent numbers show a positivity rate of 2.6%. So again, moving in the right direction. We need to keep on pushing, and obviously the city efforts to try and encourage vaccination. I'm excited about. We're going to get micro-targeted to get some folks get some more shots in the arm. So Teresa, thank you and your team for your work on this. And I'll yield the microphone to Director Tinsley.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council, Madam City Manager. Again, thank you for your time. I'll be brief as well. As the mayor said, the data is encouraging as we continue to see numbers slide in a positive direction and a downward trend. According to the CDC, as of May 30th, there are now over 33 million confirmed cases of COVID-19 in the U.S. with over 591,000 deaths. South Carolina reported out confirmed case counts today stands at 491,760. That's as today's reporting. And there have been over 7.8 million tests completed in our state. The new case counts were reported out today, confirmed cases of 116. And as the mayor said, that is a 2.6% positivity rate. Unfortunately, DHEC did report out 3 confirmed additional deaths today, which brings our state total to 8,575. In Richland County, our confirmed case count stands at 39,552. We had 15 new cases reported as of this reporting, and there are 504 deaths due to COVID. And one note, I would say the latest 14-day report period from May 16th to May 29th, Richland County had 317 cases. That's a daily average of about 22 new cases each day. So that continues to go in a positive direction. Also, as of May 26th, Richland County's 14-day recent disease activity incident rate continues to remain low. We did see a continual drop in the number of cases per 100,000, and our percent positivity rate continues to drop. It's 2.3%. That's down from 3.2. It's also in the state, hospitalizations continue to trend downward. There is sufficient bed space. As of today's report out, for 227 patients currently hospitalized due to COVID-19, confirmed or suspected. Also, the DHEC data continues to show all 7 key indicators continue to trend downward. That is a rate of cases per 100,000, rate of tests per 100,000, percent positive, deaths by date, hospitalizations, and ICU hospitalizations due to COVID. So all those continue to move in a downward trajectory. DHEC also continues with vaccine distributions, as many of y'all are aware of. Currently, right now, the state has received over 4.9 million doses, and over 3.5 million South Carolina residents have received doses. I think at the last report on the DHEC vaccine dashboard showed 1.9 million have received at least the first dose. Here in Richland County, 163,182 residents have received at least one vaccine, and 133,172 of those have completed their vaccinations. Also, at the federally supported vaccine community site here at Columbia Place Mall, there are over 14,000 vaccines as the last report out. They're averaging about 428 shots per day at that site. They are now doing the J&J or the Janssen vaccine. That's the one shot. And that site will be open through June 9. Also, if you look at the state's data that reported out on May 29th, 36.9% of South Carolina's population are fully vaccinated, and 44.7% have received at least one dose. And if you look at the national trend on CDC's report out as of May 30th, that shows the same 40.7% of the U.S. population have been fully vaccinated, and 50.5% have received at least one dose. Also of importance, 85% of those 65 and older have received one dose, and 74.8% of those across the U.S. that are older than 65 have completed the vaccination process. So all data points are putting us in a better position than we were a year ago. If you need any questions, that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Tinsley. Do we have any questions for Harry? Ms. Devine.
This is not for Harry, but this is just under COVID-19 related. I just wanted to know, Ms. Wilson, when will we have an opportunity to discuss our American Rescue Plan monies, and specifically the monies that we've talked about that may be available for outside groups, just to discuss that process and when that will start?
I think, Ms. Devine, we were waiting on the guidance that I think we now have probably about as much as we're going to get for the immediate future. So we can bring something back to you all at our next council meeting that works for you. As far as the suggested process for external funding.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
So we're talking about operating within the articulated areas that we discussed and a process. So we're talking about a NOFA? Is that what we're talking about?
That's what we normally recommend, Mayor Benjamin. We haven't put that together as of yet. And I know there was some interest by, I know Mr. Rickman also had mentioned using the funding internally. You know, obviously, we made some recommendations already for internal use of funding. And I know Reverend McDowell brought up our firefighters' second set of gear, for example. So what I was going to do was just review with you all everything we already recommended, and then that $6 million or so that we had set aside for the external uses, whichever way you all chose to divvy that up, we would put together a process for that.
Fantastic. Mr. Rickman?
I just, I think we got to look internally. We got to have a full discussion about it before we make any commitment to outside groups. At this point, we don't need to get people's hopes up yet.
Thank you. Thank you, Daniel. Any other comments on the COVID? All right, thank you. Thank y'all. So we'll look forward to that next, Teresa. Let's get a good discussion going on around that. Obviously, I think my articulated priority is broadband, so municipal Wi-Fi. So I'm sure we all got a bunch of opinions. Let's get some consensus. So
all down.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. All right, super. Thank you. All right, let's keep on going.
Yes, sir. Our next discussion, well, I don't think it's an action item, but it's a discussion or presentation item. Aphrodixia, a righteous confiscation exhibition by Mr. John Sims, the artist in residence at the 701 Center for Contemporary Arts.
Hey, Mr. Sims, are you there? Hey, there you go. You're on mute. You're on mute.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now. Thank you for.
Can you see me?
We can hear you and see you.
That's what I'm here for, to be seen and be heard. That's real. Right. So should I start?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay. So before I start, I guess I'm told I only have 5 minutes, so I'm going to cram this in. And please forgive me if I go a few milliseconds over, because I want to be able to hit all these parts and be able to talk a little bit about the art. So dear Mayor, the Columbia City Council, Columbia community, I want to address this to the whole wider community as well as the council before me. I'd like to thank all of you for this opportunity to speak. My name is John Sims. I'm an artist, writer, and activist. For 20 years, I've been leading the national pushback on Confederate iconography with my project Recoloration Proclamation, a system of work that confronts the ideas and symbols of white supremacy, visual terrorism, and the propriety of Southern heritage in the context of the African-American experience. Now, elements of this work have been all over the country, but I really want to mention, in fact, this work was inspired by protest activism surrounding the Confederate flag being on the state capitol right there in Columbia, South Carolina in the late 90s. So it was an honor and historically fitting to receive an invitation by Executive Director Michaela Brown to come to 701 Center for Contemporary Art as an artist in residence and to stage the current show, Aphrodixia, a Righteous Confiscation, which is a survey exhibition of my flag work. Now, if you haven't seen the exhibition, I'd like to invite you and the whole community to come over to 701 and see the show. Now, I'd like to address the council about a very serious matter. On May 17th, sometime after 2 a.m. in the morning, the police entered my artist in residency apartment at 701 while I was asleep. At some point, they drew guns on me, detained and handcuffed me for over 7 minutes, ran my license, and then refused to allow me to take photos. I could have easily been shot and killed that night. So to tell my side of the story, I've created a detailed artist incident report, which I've made available to members of this council before this meeting and will make public later today. Now, after this experience, I have millions of questions. What was the legal rights for the officers to enter my space? Why did the officers draw guns on me? How close was I to being shot? And why was I detained and handcuffed? Why didn't I have a chance to explain why I was there before I was handcuffed? Now, had I been a white woman in panties and a t-shirt, would I have been detained then? Why was my driver's license called in? Now, what if I was armed legally and fired on the intruders, not knowing that they were police? Would the stand your ground law apply to me? What would have happened if a muffler had been carved with a bad muffler and sound off that popped off when my hands were up? Would I be alive now? And why should I feel lucky to be alive, as if it's some prize? And more importantly, why are Black people consistently profiled to be a suspect, an intruder, a thief, in the wrong place, assumed to be guilty first? Why is there no space to speak, no space to reason before detainment? Is this space reserved for executive-looking white men who look like they can afford lawyers and publicists? And why, when we tell the police that we can't breathe, they don't listen? And when we tell them that we are artists in residence, they don't believe us? Many Black people ask these sort of questions all the time. And one might wonder why many of us don't trust the police, and why we don't feel safe with the police, and why maybe we should lock the door not only to keep out criminals, but also keep out the police. Now, reflecting on the recent anniversary of the death of George Floyd, this incident affirms to me that American policing profiling the persistent fear of death when we face the police in the streets, our cars, in our beds, are enabling elements that promote white supremacy and Black subjugation. While I'm very glad to be alive, I know many never made it out alive. While I'm very fortunate to have a platform to respond, many are silent and ignored. The time has come for American policing to be held accountable and reconstructed in ways to put common sense and humanity first and racist maneuvers last. Because law and order without civil rights is a very dangerous proposition, a dangerous affront to freedom and liberty. Now, while I appreciate the chief's comments, about being part of a national conversation about community policing engagement and criminal justice reform through training and policy and culture, I do not appreciate his statement that his officers conducted themselves professionally and within policy, and that the only misstep was not allowing me to take a photo, which in fact served to protect the police and not people like me. It's time to talk, to go beyond the talk and be a part of a national conversation that starts with the police having an honest self-critique and vulnerable acknowledgement and an apology when things go wrong, and correct policies when they fail innocent citizens, especially Black and brown ones. Perhaps a crash course in critical race theory for the police department might be a great place to start, because expecting Black people to continue to accept this insane treatment of racial profiling, gratuitous detainment, and toxic disrespect is not an option. Assuming Black people are out of place is not an option. Slave catching days are over. The Civil War is over. Now, I'm almost done here. As we approach the anniversary of the Charleston 9, there's an opportunity for South Carolina to lead this country in this historical moment past the Confederate state of mind, with work in the areas of social justice, anti-white supremacy policy, and progressive policing. I trust and hope and ask this council will lead this effort, because the world is watching. We are watching. Your grandchildren are watching, and they will be watching. And to Black people here and beyond, we must keep watching, keep complaining, and hold our government officials and police departments accountable. Our lives depend on it. And to my fellow artists and writers and activists, get ready. We must defend the creative space, the living space, to tell the truth and advocate for justice and protect and express what it means to be human, to be free, and to be alive, because our civilization depends on it. So I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank 701, the Center for Contemporary Art, its Executive Director, Michaela Brown, for the invitation, and folks all over the country, especially here in Columbia, who have offered their support. I am glad and fortunate enough to be alive to continue my work. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Sims. Thank you. And being a few minutes over is not at all an inconvenience for us. We look forward to continuing the dialogue. Thank you for having us in the space. Obviously, you know, this council supports 701 every single year because of the work that's done there. And I told you, obviously, how your exhibit specifically spoke to me. how my experience as a 17-year-old protesting against the Confederate battle flag,
Right.
how I defined my college years and my young adult years here, and I look forward to visiting again and bringing some people before the exhibit ends on June 25th. We will continue to dialogue around the issues that you raise. I will certainly, and I understand that reasonable and thoughtful people can disagree on some things. But I will say this is not a disagreement, just a point that Chief Holbrook has indeed led nationally and the CPD has on some 21st century policing issues, particularly as relates to issues of transparency, training around implicit bias and unconscious bias. We know that there are systemic issues that affect this country, indeed go back to the birth of this nation. And we have some real challenges that we still have to work on as a society in general and law enforcement specifically. We are committed to that constant dialogue and that constant system of improvement and a constant dialogue with you as well. I'm glad you're here and look forward to spending some more quality time again over the next several weeks as we continue to have this discussion. Thank you for being with us today. This is not our last conversation.
I hope not. I hope, because this is very serious matters.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, absolutely. God bless you. All right. All right. Thank you.
Mayor Benjamin and Council, at this time, we will move on to item 4, which is the Office of Business Opportunities Program Updates. Ms. Melissa Lindler, Office of Business Opportunities Director.
Good afternoon. Thank you, City Manager Wilson. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Mayor, members of Council. Thank you for having us provide this update. We know that your schedules are busy, but we did want to give you an update on where we were or where we have been over the last 16 months as we continue to, deal with COVID. One of the things we're going to talk about first is our Resilient Columbia CARES Act revolving loan fund. Many of you know that this fund was launched in October of last year, and it was by personal invitation to the mayor from EDA that we actually go after these dollars. We were awarded $2.9 million. Of that, 2.6 or 2.7 million was actually designated to capitalize a new revolving loan fund, the Resilient Columbia CARES Act revolving loan fund. And I'm happy to state that today, as of today, we have actually approved, the Commercial Revolving Loan Fund Committee has actually approved 29 loans totaling $2,507,985, of which 24 have actually been awarded. If you can look down, and as we talked about earlier, being inclusive and making sure that our services, our programs are transparent and that everyone in our community has access to participate in the services that we provide. It's nice to see this reflection of the businesses that we were able to fund. Many of our barbershops and our hair salons, because of the closures during the initial stages of COVID-19, they suffered a lot. Our retail establishments suffered, our restaurants suffered. So we're happy that we were able to fund some of these businesses, but we're also even more so excited about the number of minority-owned businesses that we're able to fund. Here, 80% of these dollars, 80% of the 2.5 million that has been approved through our Commercial Revolving Loan Fund has gone to our minority community. Many of these businesses did not have access to the program, and so we actively made sure that we made sure that everyone knew about these dollars, that they were available, and that we streamlined the process through your efforts based on the plan that we submitted to EDA to make sure that we removed barriers that may have been preventing many of them from accessing capital to sustain their businesses during the pandemic. So again, 80% of these dollars have gone to minority-owned firms or businesses. In terms of the district distribution, 48%, most of the funds that were awarded went to District 2, 21% to District 1, 31% to District 3, and we're still reviewing applications. We have about 172,000 that's left, and that actually is going up as loans are being paid back. That we have some that are in District 4 that we're still reviewing, so hopefully we'll have some in District 4 too.
Melissa, Daniel and I can't get no love in District 4. What's up with that?
We're working on it. Actually, we only had 2 applications that came from District 4. One was not eligible because of the type of business, and it was a new business owner and the type of activity they were trying to actually partake in.
I'm kind of sort of teasing, but getting almost $3 million more coming back home to our businesses, that's another big success as we work towards this new normal. That's fantastic.
Yes.
Fantastic.
And it gets better. It gets better. Because of these funds, we were able to create or retain additional jobs. We created 80 jobs, we retained about 156. And that's just through the 29 that we were able to have approved. Again, going back to the distribution of the types of industries that were supported because of these dollars, barber shops, 190,000, retail, 189,000, cleaning services, 161,000, hair salons, 120,000, yes, pet insurance, 100,000. As most of you know, there has been an increased number of pet owners because of COVID. And not only pet owners, I'm one. I also have pet insurance for my animals because it gets expensive, healthcare. So that's a growing industry right there. And we're happy that we're able to actually fund this business. Transportation, 85,000, food trucks, 75,000, property management, 50,000, laundry and dry cleaners, 50,000, counseling firm, 35,000, and marketing and PR firm, 25,000. So as we talk about the different other types of funds that we have available, just to give you an update, of course, we have 4 different commercial revolving loan funds available through the City of Columbia. One is our SURF fund, which was capitalized at $800,000. The maximum loan there is $100,000. To date, 33 loans have been issued from this account. Our Community Development Block Grant, CDBG funds, $381,766 started this fund. The maximum loan amount is $100,000. To date, we've actually funded 17 loans from this fund. Again, our Economic Development Administration funds, our Resilient Columbia revolving loan fund that was funded through EDA. We have actually, again, awarded or approved 29 loans, issued 24, and that's just since November of 2020. And I just want to stop here and just talk about the dedication of the OB team, as well as other departments in helping us administer these dollars, finance as well. Our team was really, really actively going after and making sure that this, loan fund was in place. Management helped, everyone helped to make sure that we got these dollars out as quickly as possible. So we're very excited about this. One thing I do want to mention is our Economic Development Administration. This is now known as our Legacy EDA grant since we received the CARES Act funding. This fund was actually capitalized through a grant from EDA in 1988. So it's a very, very old fund. The maximum loan amount is actually $200,000. It started with a grant of $841,238. To date, we've actually issued 107 loans from this fund. So we're excited about this. But because of how well we have administered these funds, we've also been invited by the EDA to submit for defederalization of these funds, which is great. It would allow us more flexibility in meeting more economic developmental needs of our community. But it also cuts a lot of the red tape and reporting that's required for these federal dollars. So we're excited about that, and we will present more information to you for your approval and our submission to EDA later in a couple of months.
Melissa.
Yes, sir.
For the public's education, can you explain what defederalization of the funds means?
Just exactly what it sounds like. It means that the federal interest in these dollars would be removed. They would actually become part of our general fund funds, and their administration stops. So we're actually, once we submit to them a plan on how we're going to spend the dollars, and they're related directly to the economic development activities that they've identified, they will actually remove themselves and allow us to administer these funds how we see fit. What also, as I mentioned, is great about having the defederalization is the federal oversight is removed. So it's now more of a city oversight. We still have to make sure that we follow Davis-Bacon, but other than that, that's it. So again, it's much easier in our administration of the funds. It allows us more flexibility with how we use these dollars, as long as it's within the preview of how EDA has specified.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. So just to give you an overview of where we've been with our SURF dollars, with the CDBG dollars that I mentioned, and the legacy EDA. In FY 18-19, our portfolio was $3,808,000. Of that, we had 4 defaults at that time, about 11% of our total portfolio. 10 minority-owned businesses, 5 minority women-owned businesses, 11 non-minority women-owned businesses, and 15 non-minority-owned businesses. So just take a look at this pie chart. And I just want you to pay attention to this and watch how it's changed over the last 3 years up until today. For FY 19-20, our portfolio was $2,693,804.96. Again, our default rate, we had about 4 loans that were currently in default. Our default rate went up to 13%. Still way under the national average. 8 minority-owned businesses, 5 minority women-owned businesses, 11 non-minority women-owned businesses, and 12 non-minority-owned businesses. We did have some loans that were paid off towards the end of FY 19-20, and you're going to see that in the next slide. But again, pay attention to the chart. This is where we are today. Because of the EDA capitalization of the new Resilient Columbia CARES Act revolving loan fund, our loan portfolio is now about double. It's at $4,877,529.05. Thanks to Tanya for giving you all that great information and rounding it to the last cents. But we have about 60 performing totaling loans at $4,811,581.37. So these are active performing current loans, and that's 99% of our total portfolio. Our default rate is now only 1%, which is great. Again, looking at this chart, the inclusiveness that we talked about earlier, making sure our processes, our services, our systems that we have in place are reflective of the community that we represent. We now have 20 minority-owned businesses, that's male minority-owned businesses, 17 minority women-owned businesses, 12 non-minority women-owned businesses, 13 non-minority male-owned businesses. Our minority participation is currently at 60%. Total jobs created, that's all of our loans. 117, jobs retained 366. Any questions?
Pretty good.
So just to give you an idea of our loan balances and what we still have available, I mentioned the Legacy EDA grant. That available balance is now $624,866. This EDA Legacy available fund balance has increased because we've had 3 loans that were actually paid back, totaling over $300,000. We still have about 2 million in outstanding or loans that are still out there, active loans. For our CARES Act fund, we have about $2,487,047 left. Out there, in active loans. And we have about $172,000 that we could still use to make additional loans. CDBG, $366,470. Our SURF account is at $581,360. The food co-op program is actually not the food co-op program, is actually for our food accessibility piece. You all actually earmarked $44,381.79 towards that effort. So our total portfolio of all of our funds is $646,623. Any questions before I move into CRR?
No, any questions? Let's keep on going. I'm good. I'm sorry.
I have a question. I just wanted to point out just the numbers. Minority women-owned businesses are the fastest growing business, and for our numbers to reflect that in the loans just shows the great work that our staff is doing by making sure we're representative. So I just wanted to make sure I pointed that out and say that that is awesome.
Thank you, Councilwoman Vine. We've worked hard trying to make sure that everyone knows about our programs. I know when we first got that money, the mayor and council members came to me and said, make sure we're doing outreach directly into our African-American owned communities so that people know about these dollars. So because of your leadership, everybody on this council, we were able to do that. So thank you. And of course, the leadership of our city manager and ACM Gentry as well. Going into our commercial retention and redevelopment program, our CRR program, because of the pandemic, one problem that we ran into was a barrier. Because some of our shops and retail establishments and some of the businesses that we had been working with to apply for CRR, a lot of them had their match. The exterior improvements is at up to $15,000. And one of the requirements was that it was 80%, 20% match. A lot of these businesses no longer had that match, that 20%. So they were having to use that. They had to use that 20% that they had set aside actually to continue the operations of their business during COVID. So the CRR committee actually did a waiver, waiving the 20%. So that these businesses could still participate in the program. And they were very, very thankful for that. And they were able to continue on and be a part of our program as a result. So for FY 1920, we did have $200,000 in general fund dollars that went to the CRR program. And our target area is still the same area here, Hardin Street, Gervais Street, Millwood Avenue, and Taylor Street. So this is where we were in 2019, 2020. And these are a list of the businesses that we're able to actually assist. There was only one business, Cash Property Offers, that used the vacancy incentive of the $10,000 that you all adopted last year. Here are some before and after pictures of some of those businesses. This is the House of Styles located at 2309. Let's go through this. Mary's Beauty Salon. The owner, the previous owner, Mary, actually passed right after these renovations were done, but she was able to see it before she passed. Sunrise Artesian Bath and Body. You can see the exterior here. The windows have been replaced. We did an awning in the front. Inside, the ceiling has been also replaced and fixed. This is the back. This is actually located on 2007 Divine Street. She's using this exterior interest. It's a different building right here to teach classes and help students learn how to make soap and some of the other products that she sells in the store. If you haven't been there, please go. I love the different soaps that she has, and so does staff, and the oils, and it's a very nice, bright place to go and visit. This right here is cash property offers. As you can see, the different improvements that were made here are very noticeable inside, outside. For 2020, the programs that we're currently working with, Loose Lucy's, this one will actually receive the incentive, vacancy incentive that we have in place. Hair Designs, Bang Back, Pinball Lounge, this actually closed today. The Gourmet Shop, tomorrow's, this is formerly yesterday's. Village Idiot, a Little Happy Shop, and this also will use the vacancy incentive. For 2021, we had no general fund dollars that were used for CRR. All funds were awarded through CDBG. For FY 21-22, the only funding that we have available is $146,143, and that's all CDBG dollars. We do have more businesses that want to participate in the program. We also have businesses here, the 2500 block, that have asked to participate in the program as well. But because of the limited funding, we doubt we're going to be able to expand there and incorporate additional businesses until we see what's going on here and what the business needs are. But we do have requests. We just don't have enough dollars to fund all the requests. I just wanted to give an update. Of course, we work very closely with Columbia Water on the FOG program, the Forgivable Loan Program, Fats, Oils, and Grease program. Columbia Water has been really, really busy, but because of the pandemic, this program did slow down some. This right here is a draft of the brochure that they're working on. We still have $92,247.84 still in that program. The two recipients thus far are Rambo's Fat Cat Biscuits, that's on North Main Street, and Azalea Coffee Bar. I will say that Azalea is also one of our new Resilient Columbia CARES Act revolving loan recipients as well. The citywide MWBE utilization goal, we've been busy. Of course, all of you know when this citywide goal was adopted by the city manager in 2015, we actually started implementing in 2016. Over the years, it gradually went up. And in September of 2019, during this fiscal year, it actually, because we met the 10% goal that she initially placed on the citywide utilization initiative, we met it at 12.09%. She increased it to 15%. So I'm happy to say that in FY 2019 and 2020, we actually met that goal at 15.04%. Because of COVID, of course, budget has, our expenditures have been down. Our budgets have all been cut. Where we are currently for this fiscal year, we're at 10.99%. We likely, maybe, may get up to 12%, but we do not think that we're going to get 15%. But it's still good because it looks like we're not going to go any lower than this. But again, it shows the commitment across the city, again, to be diverse in the vendors that they choose, and also to be more inclusive and making sure that we're looking at and utilizing the vendors that are here, and we're giving more people an opportunity to participate in our procurement process. And that just shows you again is at 10.99%. One thing that I wanted to share with you was, the innovation of our staff, and I think we've seen this across the city, was to be able to adapt to, the new virtual environment because of COVID. And one event that we do every year, as many of you know, is our Minority Business Opportunities Conference. So again, this is something that we did. We wanted certainly to do it again, but because of COVID, we weren't able to do it in the setting that we usually utilize, where we have vendors meeting directly with departments that are responsible for different procurements in their areas, and also our different partners being at the table. So this year instead, we did develop a directory. We had a virtual event. We actually had Dominion Energy and Savannah Riverside participate and talk about their different diversity initiatives that they have, supplier diversity initiatives that they have at their companies. And attendees were just amazed. We had over 100 participants that attended that event. And what we did, the directory that we came up with that actually lists all of our departments and the different procurements that they purchase, different goods and services that they purchase, is all contained in this directory. We also have a listing of different technical assistance and training providers in this directory, as well as different services and products that they purchase. So this is something that we're going to continue to use after COVID, because it's certainly a great resource for our community, and our small businesses love it. And it's something that's growing, and we're constantly updating. Mentor Protege Program and our Columbia Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Program. I'm just going to provide a very brief update on these two programs at a time. So the total projects awarded in FY19, 24, FY20, it went up to 32. Total dollars awarded also went up, 17.5 million in 19, 22.8 million in 20. Total dollars awarded to proteges went up as well, 3.6 million, 5.2 million. And the total contract dollars to proteges went up slightly as well, from 20.44% to 22.84%. The total dollars to non-minority women also went up, $1,662,288 to $2,504,558. Total contract dollars to non-minority women, it went up slightly, 9.45% to 10.99%. And total dollars to minority firms also went up significantly, $103,280 to $789,734. From, again, 0.60% in 2019 to 3.46% in 2020. Construction services, our teams have increased just slightly. We've added one more team in 2020. Professional services, we actually lost one team from 52 to 51. Columbia Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Program, I'm not going to spend too much time here because I know that we've already talked about the different changes that we've made to the CDBE program. And hopefully because of those changes, we will see these numbers right here change as well. Again, the total number of approved CDBEs in 2019 was 94. It went down slightly by one in 2020. Total projects, we went from 5 to 7. Total dollars awarded, $9,488,995 to $35,711,397. Total dollars awarded to CDBEs, $2,313,464 to $3,705,694. So this right here went down. And one of the reasons that it did go down was because some of the projects, there were more specialized areas, larger amounts for those actual contract awards, more specialized areas, which limited the number of CDBEs that could actually participate in the projects. But again, hopefully because of the changes that we made in our CDBE policy, in making sure that our primes are meeting the actual goal that we placed on projects, these numbers or these percentages over the next year or so will also increase. And also with the help of the disparity study consultant that's coming on board, this is one of the programs that we certainly hope that they can help us even better revise and look at things that we can do differently to increase participation. Again, the program updates the CDBE policy and guidelines will hopefully help us, improve our goal attainment by our primes. One thing that has changed here is that a good faith efforts compliance now will be done prior to bid opening, which also makes a streamlined process internally between OBO and procurement. Again, we're working very closely with them as well as Columbia Water in implementing this policy. We held our first CDBE outreach event for our primes and our participants, our CDB participants, all external stakeholders last Thursday to introduce the revisions to the policy as well as the guidelines. So we also use that as a way to recruit more CDBEs into the program. MPP program modifications in this fiscal year, we have had, thanks to Columbia Water under the leadership of Clint Shealy, an increase in protege only and protege led opportunities. And we also have more protege only for smaller projects and more indefinite delivery contracts to, again, increase their, not only their different skill sets, but also the amount of dollars going to proteges. I'm not going to spend too much time here. Of course, very early on in the pandemic, we did a small business stabilization forgivable loan. We awarded 322 loans. To date, we've actually had 188 forgiven, not forgiven yet, 134. One of the reasons, again, is because PPP. Some of the recipients of these funds actually receive PPP awards. And because of the time restraints that came with those dollars, many of them use that money first, and they still have 2 years from the date that they receive these funds to spend this money. So they're now a year into that, and we're receiving more forgivable requests in now. So hopefully this number again will go down when you hear from us next and we give you another update. Some survey results: 90% of the recipients of these funds stated that it helped stabilize their business. Most of the recipients used the funds for rent and payroll. Over half of the recipients were able to retain employees as a result of the funding. So this was something that everyone was very, very appreciative with, and many stated that this actually helped them keep their doors open as a result. Oops. The last thing I wanted to talk about was our 2021 impact of COVID-19 on small business survey. We were really, really interested in finding out where our businesses were as we recover from COVID-19. So this is something that we took seriously. We shared the survey with other team members across the city so they can provide some input on some things that they wanted to see on the survey. And also, as we, try to establish different funding priorities, training priorities for the future, we definitely wanted to know where the small businesses were. So this survey was conducted between April 12th and May 10th, and it was shared on a number of different media outlets and social media platforms. And unlike before, we only received 431 responses in comparison to the 1,000 that were received early on during the pandemic. But it was still great that we got this many in, 431. We still thought that was a good number. Impact of COVID-19 on small business survey. So how long have you been in business? We didn't really see a change in this question from our initial survey. Again, most of the respondents have been in business for more than 10 years. Again, only a very small amount have been in business for less than a year, 45. These numbers are very similar to the initial survey that we did back in March of 2020. The race and demographics of the people that actually completed the survey, the majority of those that completed the survey were Black or African American, 52.90%, 35.96% were white. And those are the two gap categories there. Again, I think this speaks to also the people that were willing to do the survey because we put it out there across different media outlets. We had it everywhere. And I think because of the disproportionate impact of COVID-19 on small minority women-owned businesses and male-owned businesses, minority businesses in general. I think that's why we're seeing so many people being responsive from that community, is because the need is still very, very great. Most of the women, or most of the people that completed the survey, were female, 58.24%. Only 39.21% were male. Going back to what Councilwoman Devine said, I think that speaks merit to what you stated. More of those businesses are going at quicker rates. Only 12% were from veteran-owned businesses. I'm going to speed up a little bit. The majority of the surveys actually, we had a number from restaurant and food trucks, construction. This just gives you an idea of the different business that completed the survey. Top concerns as it relates to COVID-19, lack of cash flow and reduction in customer demand. Again, directly, how the business has been impacted: depletion of cash reserves, reduction in customers. Which resources would be most useful to your business if things were available? Small business grants was the biggest response, 82.83%. There's still a need for funding. Low interest loans, 36.19%. Again, still a need for funding. And technical assistance to identify and apply for all resources available to your business, 35.73%. Use of future funding, financial assistance if available. Most said that it would be used for rent and mortgage. Not really a change from the previous survey. Others also said 176, 40.84%. Insurance, payroll was the biggest though, 62.65%. And of course, marketing. A lot of our businesses actually had to do a lot of pivoting during the pandemic, and they're still trying to figure out technological advances that can help them make that transition. Future training needs, preparing loan packages, that's still something that's needed, especially in our minority-owned business community. Building relationships with financial institutions for access to capital and updating technology. Again, we held a number of different workshops over the last 16 months. Our first webinar regarding the CDB changes in the policy and guidelines was held last Thursday on May 27th. We continue to hold partnership meetings and meetings with our partners. We held a total of 47 virtual events since last March, and over 2,000 participants attended. And again, we do also, hopefully you all get our OBO weekly newsletter that's sent out on Fridays. If you don't get it, let us know. But a lot of information about different trainings are in that newsletter, as well as other events our partners are holding, and just information that will help our small business community in general. And that's it. Any questions?
Melissa, I've been sort of tracking where your office has gone and the kinds of efforts that were put in place to help it. Those small businesses would not have made it if you weren't able to provide the assistance that you have. What would that figure or percentage be?
Oh my goodness, I would say probably 30 to 40%. Most of the businesses that responded to us are the comments that we received, especially early on, many of which I shared with everybody on this call. Some people were in tears when they got the money because they needed money for operating. They needed money to help sustain the payroll. And a lot of these were businesses that had been in business for over 10 years. It was their livelihood. Many of them didn't have money for their lights and things just to maintain their homes and things of that nature because they had no income coming in. So I would say probably about 30 to 40%.
All right. Other questions from Melissa?
Mayor Benjamin, I just wanted to say thank you to Melissa and her team. You all as a council for many years have put an emphasis on doing the work and in this space. And, many cities don't have such an office. So I think it's very forward thinking of you as a council to have, given the staff and I the opportunity to work in the space, to Mr. Davis's point, because we have this office, because Melissa is so passionate and so is her team. I tell other members of the staff sometimes that that's the why we do what we do, but you have to have people in place all the time, every day, to focus on it. So I think when crisis moments occur, such as the pandemic, for many of our small and minority-owned businesses, we were already ready to stand up programs and put funding behind those programs at you all's direction, but you have to implement, and they were ready to do it. And that's because we have this office. So I really thank Melissa and her passion. I remind staff all the time that there is a why behind her passion, and we thank her and the whole team.
And I couldn't agree more, Teresa. And a step deeper, obviously the existence of this office, the work that it does, is to directly counteract the systemic issues that we're talking about. This is all connected in a very meaningful way. And that's, Melissa, just thanks to you and your whole team. We were able to weather some very difficult times because of the work of your office, economic development, everyone working together. So and we still got a hope. We still got a ways to go, but we got the right team in place to make it happen. All right.
Thank you. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you.
Rock and roll.
Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you.
Mayor Benjamin and council, this portion of your agenda is consent items 5 through 23.
Your motion.
I move we approve the consent agenda items 5 through 23.
Is there a second?
I would like to note that a Muffin Channel honey monster that Clint Shealy told us about a few months ago cost a little bit more than they had anticipated.
All right.
Item 7.
Got a question point.
All right. We all have moments of comment. Is there a motion? Is there a second?
There's a motion.
All right.
There's
Move
a
in second.
I'll
Discussion.
second with the comment afterwards. Question
Yeah,
afterwards.
But the floor is yours, Mr. Davis.
Huh?
Please. Yeah.
Going back to some past discussions, and I was looking at, I think item 8 and 9. The question, trying to see what our efforts are in terms of building capacity with small minority businesses in the contracting areas. I was looking at, I think 10, for example, and it listed the primes, and I'm not sure how we're defining minorities, but my question would be, how many of these businesses, given the size of that contract, this one was only 11.9 million, and well, I'll go with that one as an example. I can't seem to discern which of these businesses, these subcontractors are African Americans in particular. I see, I think, 2 references to women in parentheses. Because then anybody answer that? It's an interesting contract with the number of different small businesses, but I can't determine which are African American subs.
Yes, sir, Mr. Davis, we can get you that information. It's not typical that we've ever broken out the ethnicity of the minority designation. You'll see minority business enterprise, but we don't typically do that. I mean, we can get that information to you if you would like us to start doing that.
Well, yeah, the only obvious in categories is child.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm looking at Southern Commercial. I'm sorry.
Yes, sir. And
Southern
I know.
Commercial. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Mr. Davis.
Southern Commercial listed as a minority business enterprise out of Lugoff gets 67,000 of that contract. My question is, what minority classification is that? So is Southern Commercial, LA Barriers, and so forth.
Yes, sir. I would have to get you that information. We don't typically put the ethnicity on the agenda broken out that way. It is typical in the industry to put the women on because that's considered a
Right.
whole category in and of itself. But we can provide you that going forward if you would like us to.
Yeah, really, I'm asking again, going back to a larger conversation sometime back. I'm not seeing anything that's showing the progress we're making with those goals. And given the size of the number of these contracts again.
So I mean, Melissa's report has got some good detail. But you want even more granular specificity.
Even more because
this.
Right.
All right.
The ones that Melissa is referencing, they don't necessarily fall in this category with these kinds of contracts. And this is where the bulk of the dollars are going when it comes to contracting with the city.
Well, these were those type contracts, Mr. Davis, that she just went over. I think one of the things, if you recall, a previous presentation, not today's, although she did reference CDBE as well, that is the program that we are we just recently changed some policy so that the primes are held more accountable for the percentage that they have to reach. And even with their good faith efforts, many times they are showing that they're trying, but that's been sort of after the fact of the award of the contract. And so we're changing the policy to ensure and really insist that they meet a certain percentage with the small minority women-owned businesses that they subcontract with. I think the only distinction based off what Melissa presented today is to your point about the specificity of the ethnic groups that are being awarded contracts. So we would have to work with procurement and Melissa's team and Clint's team to show that in a different way, perhaps on the agenda. I also want to ask legal about it as well to make sure we're doing everything appropriately when showing that information.
Yeah, I understand the legal aspects of it, but again, it goes back to what our overall goal is. That we, I think, as a city have admitted that we're not there. And given the size of these contracts, again, I'd like to know, and I think everybody else would like to know, especially now that we're going to attempt to go with the disparity study, not knowing how that's going to turn out or how long. By the end of that, it could be a year or 2 or 2 years before we, have a clear picture of what is and how do we get to the target point of increasing minority participation, looking at these subcontractors. Are we, going after local businesses or somebody, or do we end up saying, well, there's just no minority contractors around? I don't think that's the case. But one of the expected outcomes is also that there would be selection of the proteges and trainings to build capacity in those small businesses so that they would reach that goal of coming through the door as a prime. That's the broad picture, and I'm not seeing the primes. And so I can't tell who are the proteges that meet the categories that we're trying to put in place.
Let's have a discussion in the Economic Development, Community Development Committee. Let's bring it up, committee referrals, do some deeper diving, particularly with the disparity study coming up. I mean, just Melissa's report alone, that when we have the ability to aggressively influence the awards of public funds, we hit some pretty serious targets. The
Right.
area Mr. Davis indicates is obviously where we spend the bulk of ratepayer resources, and where we want to still continue to see some a much greater impact. It's going to require a little bit of a deeper dive. So let's commit that work to the committee, and obviously against the timeline of our new disparity study consultant. So, but let's go ahead and put a bow on this list. We've got some other comments. We still have the consent agenda before us, and then maybe at the appropriate time, Ms. Davis, when we get to reports, let's go ahead and we get to committee reports or referrals. Let's touch on this again. Okay. Sound good? All right. Any other discussion or motion before seeing none? Move through this question. Follow up.
Mr. Brennan,
Yes.
Mr. Wickerman,
Aye.
Mr. McDowell,
Yes.
Mr. Duval,
Aye.
Mr. Vine,
Aye.
Mr. Davis,
Aye.
Mayor Benjamin.
Aye. Thank you.
Item 24 is an ordinance second reading, ordinance number 2021-045, consenting to the inclusion of property in a multi-county industrial business park project Catawba, 919 Catawba Avenue, 318 Lincoln Street, and 312 Lincoln Street.
Move approval.
Can
Yes.
we hear staff before we do that?
What's that?
Can we hear from staff before we move forward? Because there was a number of items that council asked to get done, and I couldn't see them all in there. I also had asked about if we could look into the split, because obviously the zoo, the library, all these other folks aren't
Let's do that.
involved in this.
Absolutely.
And then the third part I wanted to follow up into is that I couldn't find anywhere, and hopefully they can clarify this, but there were two statements that were made. One was it was important for the project to move forward. The second was showing what the amount was going to be at the end of that term, but I didn't see anywhere where we had an agreement that this was a 10-year only term, that it wasn't eligible for renewal, because then those numbers that we're being shown aren't actual. So I wanted to find out, did I miss that? Which I could have, and I apologize if I did. Do we know if that's in the agreement?
Well, I think every single one of them has been handled accordingly. First of all, let's hope someone took a list of Mr. Rickman's questions. We can take them all one by one. There's a motion on the floor before we get in discussion period. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, discussion. What was your first question, Daniel?
Well, the first one was wrapped around, did we receive all the things that were asked for? There were multiple things. I know there was some railroad and some other things that I couldn't see. Have we gotten everything cleared up that we asked for prior to the second reading? Number one. Number
Mr.
two.
Coleman, is Ryan? Whoever?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
All right. You heard the question. You got
Yes,
an answer?
sir. With the Exhibit B, which is attached on the second reading of the ordinance, we got the additional project commitments from the developer, which really kind of dove into some of the specifics, I believe, that council was looking for, committing to 14 income restricted units. There's a lot of specifics in there with regards to the safety improvements, including sidewalk improvements, and making sure that those are up to safety measure and FRA guidelines, lighting improvements in compliance with city code requirements, the additional signage and striping, the bollards in the right of way, and the zigzag crossings near the railroad gates, fencing and screening all along the northern side of the property. And then I believe there was a median improvement near that rail crossing as well, to deter traffic from going around. $100,000 for the purposes of those safety improvements in and around the Lincoln Street rail crossing. And then some other specifics in there as far as committing to lease by the unit. $35,000 to the Mill District Alliance for wetlands improvements, an additional $15,000 to the Mill District Alliance for fundings of traffic study and some other pedestrian and bike improvements in the area, and then a couple of other odds and ends there as well.
Ryan, issue with the university get handled, because I didn't see that in there. And look, I want to support it, but that we had specific things that needed to get done, and there's a couple of things that we had talked about too that I didn't see. So I want to make sure that we're doing exactly what everybody agreed to.
What's the issue with the university?
University had a real concern, and they were supposed to work it out with them around the rail and the students and all of that. And I did not see a university letter confirming that they were comfortable with the plan.
Okay.
I believe the developer's online as well. I'm not sure if you all want to hear from him.
Sure. And I think we're going to rarely see university support of any private sector student housing anyway. But what other questions were? Ryan went through a pretty comprehensive list of codified.
What about extension? I mean, based on the numbers that were sent to us, there's nowhere in there that I saw, and maybe the Ryan developer or whoever can let us know that there's no extension for the FILO, because that's what this is planned on, that within the 10 years that we see the uptick in the taxes, and that was the projection that they sent us. But I didn't see the language in there saying they agreed to no extension.
But how's that any different than all the ones we've done so far?
Well, because specifically says the project, and the no footnotes, if you look at what they presented us, specifically say project doesn't work without this, but after the 10 years it does, and here's what your taxes is. And they completely have built the whole model around that.
But Daniel, the entire ordinance is predicated on the 10 years. And
right.
So, I mean, so help me understand that.
Well, that's,
we don't need their assent or agreement. The ordinance itself articulates 10 years.
And so there'll be no, so the projections, so there'll be no extension is what you're telling me. Right.
I won't be here in 10 years. Maybe you will be. That's the future council. But the entire ordinance is predicated on the 10-year FILO. Mr. Davis, I'm sorry. His question answered. Mr. Davis.
I was just chiming in. Hopefully, with some of Daniel's concerns, Ryan has been doing, some homework on this. Tamika and Will might want to chime in, and we're gonna come back again, the committee, and take a look at the additional information that's being compiled. So Daniel, I don't know if this answers your question yet, but you did get the copy for the tax. I'm sorry.
The biggest for the committee, or one of the things, is to make sure that the city, the school district, and the county are the ones who are splitting the fee, and not all these other things. The library, the zoo, and everybody else should not. I mean, we actually, as I mentioned this last time, we should be getting 50% or more of any split, because we're absorbing all the costs. And that was one of the things I asked for us to look into, and then the other thing is the developer did confirm their costs and everything. He provided us a comprehensive list. I don't know if y'all looked at it, but it shows that the FILO would equal 50%, which is what they agreed to, which it should be $1 million or 50% of the FILO, which is what their numbers show.
Yes, sir. And Councilman Rickman, I wanted to just give you all a little more detailed information with regards to how the tax credit is applied. It is applied against the public infrastructure investment, and so if that tax credit happens to be drawn down against public infrastructure costs before a 10-year period is reached, then it caps right there. So say their public infrastructure cost is, I think it's about 7,800,000. If they reach that total in year 8, then it's capped and they no longer get the tax credit because it's balanced against the public infrastructure cost. At 10-year, it caps. Now, if their public infrastructure investment happens to extend out and they don't reach that amount by year 10, they do have the option to come to both councils and request the extension of that until the point that they would meet that public infrastructure investment. So say they've only hit 6 million out of 8 by year 10, they could request an extension from councils. But once they hit that total amount of that public infrastructure investment, it's done. And essentially, I don't think we've seen any of these that surpass a 10-year period. I'm thinking Clayco's may be different because of the size of the project that they're doing. They may see public infrastructure investment because of their structured parking cost that goes beyond that. But most of these have comfortably fit within about 8 to 10-year range before they cap.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks.
Please, I'm sorry. Interrupt someone?
No, I was just saying thank you, Ryan, for giving that. I'm just curious where we were on, I know staff was looking into about the split, how we could ensure it's, because this is the last reading, so we have to make sure that the split is done correctly.
Yeah. I'm not sure what the split is in here. I know we've taken on any number of economic development projects previously and pushed for a different split than obviously the typical tax dollar might be split between us. And I think every opportunity that we have, obviously, to do that effectively, we should do that. We have to remember that we're using our municipal ordinance but using a county law articulated in the state statute. But I couldn't agree more. Every chance we can get some more of those resources, we need to try and get them. And I think we've shown some leadership, particularly around Jushi and some others historically. We should keep on pushing. I don't think that should hold this up.
I think it will.
Mr. Davis, I'm sorry.
No, I didn't. The committee met. I was just wondering.
Why you keep calling on people, man?
Huh?
Mr. Mayor, move the previous question.
I've moved the previous question. Thank you, Mr. McDowell.
All right.
Clerk call roll.
Mr. Brennan,
No.
Mr. Rickerman,
Aye.
Mr. McDowell,
Yes.
Mr. Duval,
No.
Mr. Vine, Mr. Davis,
Aye.
Mayor Benjamin.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Ordinances first reading, item 25, ordinance number 2021-047, authorizing conveyance of approximately 1,542 square foot portion of city property identified as Lexington County for traffic circle improvements at the intersection of Old Lexington Highway.
Move approval.
Second. Any discussion? Previous question, clerk call roll.
Mr. Brennan,
Yes.
Mr. Rickerman,
Aye.
Howell,
Yes.
Duval,
Aye.
Mr. Vine,
Aye.
Mr. Davis,
Aye.
Mayor Benjamin.
Aye. Thank you.
Okay.
For item 26, Mayor Benjamin and Council, Jeff will give you all a just very brief reminder or update, but item 26 is ordinance number 2021-048, authorizing an appropriation or the issuance by the city of a tax anticipation note for the fiscal year 2021-2022 payments due under the intergovernmental agreement between the South Carolina Jobs Economic Development Authority and the City of Columbia, South Carolina, under the Recover SC Local Government Liquidity Program and other matters relating thereto.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Move the, I'm sorry, Mr. Duval.
Mr. Mayor, this is sort of an educational piece rather than any debate on the issue, but I noticed that in paragraph C of the ordinance, they talk about a legal case called Williams versus Town of Hilton Head. And I know that all municipal officials know that the town, that particular legal case, Williams versus Town of Hilton Head, is where the South Carolina Supreme Court in 1993 finally said that there was home rule in county and municipal government in South Carolina and not Dillon's rule. You'll remember that we voted on the amendment
Yes.
to the Constitution in 1973. We passed the act in 1975 to implement most of this, but it wasn't until 1993 that the Supreme Court finally put the seal of approval on home rule for South Carolina cities. It's very important that you read that last line. A municipality may enact regulations and ordinances without requirement of further specific statutory authorization, so long as such regulations are not inconsistent with the Constitution and general law of the state. That was a big step for home rule in South Carolina. I just wanted to bring that to the council's attention.
I remember that.
And we must preserve home rule, we must preserve it. Thank you, Howard. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Duval. But Mayor, we just wanted to give you a quick reminder of why this is on your agenda, and also the fact that we are trying to not utilize these funds, but we still needed to place this on your agenda. Jeff?
Sure. So y'all recall the Recover SC liquidity program. We or y'all passed the resolution and then an ordinance back in August and October to participate in the program. And these were the funds that we would utilize if we had shortfalls in the various revenues during this past year, specifically affected by COVID. I think one of our largest discussions was to make sure we had the funds there to cover local option sales tax in case sales tax came in short. We did not want to have to adjust that factor on the property tax bills for our citizens. During the budget presentation that Missy Kaufman presented to y'all a month ago, we did show that we intend to return the funds and pay back everything from the Recover SC loans, so that we don't have a 10-year commitment in paying this back, and that we have other funds to cover that. But while y'all have approved that, we don't actually make the payment until the next payment date, which is in the end of September. So because of that, we do have to pass, as required in the agreement of that program, we do have to pass a tax anticipation note ordinance, which is really their kind of their backstop of how we would make the payment if we weren't using any other funds to make that payment.
Thank you. Thank you for the explanation, Jeff. I know that we were in the vanguard, you and Brett and Michael, just making sure we had as many resources as possible when they together for the leadership and developing the program. It's good that we don't need it. Let's get out of there and keep on moving. So
yes, sir.
Thank you. That's been moved and probably seconded, and we got a history lesson on top of that. Let's move the previous question. Clerk, call the roll.
Mr. Brennan,
Yes.
Mr. Rickman,
Aye.
Mr. McDowell,
Yes.
Mr. Duval,
Aye.
Mr. Vine,
Aye.
Mr. Davis,
Aye.
Mayor Benjamin.
Aye. Thank you.
Resolutions, item 27 is resolution number R 2021-015, authorizing the city manager to execute an encroachment license agreement between the City of Columbia and Norfolk Southern Railroad for Blythewood Farms Phase 1 sewer replacement.
All right. Is there a motion?
Move approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Discussion with the previous question. Clerk, call roll.
Mr. Brennan,
Yes.
Mr. Rickman,
Aye.
Mr. McDowell,
Yes.
Mr. Duval,
Aye.
Ms. Devine,
Aye.
Mr. Davis,
Aye.
Mayor Benjamin.
Aye.
Item 28, resolution number R 2021-059, authorizing the city manager to execute an intergovernmental agreement relating to bike infrastructure between the city of Columbia and Richland County.
Their motion.
So move.
So, the second, any discussion? With the previous question, clerk call roll.
Mr. Brennan,
Yes.
Mr. Rickman,
Aye.
Mr. McDowell,
Yes.
Mr. Duval,
Aye.
Ms. Devine,
Aye.
Mr. Davis,
Aye.
Mayor Benjamin.
Aye.
Item 29, resolution number R 2021-061, authorizing the purchase of 1796 Shady Lane in Columbia.
So move, Mr. Mayor.
The second,
Second.
any discussion? We'll move the previous question, clerk call roll. I'm
Mr.
sorry.
Brennan,
Wait, unreadiness, Mr. Rickman, I apologize.
Yeah, no, I've had a lot of the neighbors and stuff reach out to me about it. Can we set up a meeting to discuss what our plan is so that we can let them know long-term? I know we talked about a lot of different things on how to handle that, what to do with it, but could we kind of set a time and a frame that we're going to make some decisions and let those neighbors know what our plan is?
Sure. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks, Daniel. We'll move the previous question, clerk call roll.
Mr. Brennan,
Yes.
Mr. Rickman,
Aye.
Mr. McDowell,
Yes.
Mr. Duval,
Aye.
Ms. Devine,
Aye.
Mr. Davis,
Aye.
Mayor Benjamin.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir, Mr. Ball.
point of order. Is there a reason why the event resolutions are not put with these resolutions and put after the executive session?
Yes, sir. We need to discuss one of them in executive session with you all.
Okay. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Duval. All right. I think we voted. I think we're on number 30. Haven't we voted? Or no.
Yeah.
We did. Yeah.
Number-
Three.
Yes, sir. You all voted on item 29.
Keep on going.
The appointment, sir. Yes, sir. I thought you all were taking for the item 30. You have two.
We don't move until you move. Yeah. We don't move.
Sorry, try to take your lead, Mayor. Sometimes you dive into those.
We do have, to Mr. Duval's point, a few things out of order. Can we have them? We have not established the advisory committee on equality yet as a formal act of council. Mr. Duval and Ms. Devine, does someone make that formal motion that we established the advisory committee on equality?
Tamika?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I would move that the council establishes an advisory committee on equality, other known as ACE, and the council would have appointments to this committee. We have not set a number of appointments. We can have as many as this council so desires. So I'd so move.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Is there any discussion? I think the goal is that we'll have the opportunity to make sure that we have a geographic representation of members from across the community. This is a wonderful move on the first day of Pride Month, establishing this community as a diverse and inclusive community that supports our LGBTQIA citizens as well. And then there's a raft of initial appointments that have been proposed that will be complemented, hopefully maybe as soon as next week by additional appointees. Before we move to the previous question on the establishment of this ad hoc committee, I think any other comments is Ms. Devine's hand. Ms. Devine?
Yes, Your Honor. I'm sorry, excuse me. Yes, Mr. Mayor, I was gonna, I can send out a Mr. Duvall and I, and it might be in the packet, but we did come up with initial mission for this committee, and I'll make sure that that gets emailed out to everybody. And I just wanted to let everybody know that'll be in their inbox.
Okay.
Are you all going to send proposed members? Because I'm
I think
that.
I think we're
going
going
to
to do
ask.
that separately, Mr. Rickman. I think we're going to establish committee first and then go back and do that.
Okay, so we're going to establish committee first. All right, and then we'll go back and we'll do names. Are we okay with doing names next meeting? Doing a call for vacations, or I know we have some solid leaders that you and Howard have already sourced, some of whom are already hard at work on the mission. But I know obviously everyone wants to, I think we have no representatives, for example, geographically from District 3 and the like. We want to make sure that as we speak about inclusion, we make sure everyone's included.
Yes, sir. I can just say for the record, we do have a list as in my motion. This is, there's no an amount very similar that we did to the Affordable Housing Committee. We did some initial appointments, and I think we had 3 other times after that we added members to that committee and that task force. So that certainly, this is going to be a fluid process. We want it to be inclusive. We do, Mr. Mayor, currently have applications from 7 people representing 3, representing District 1, 1 in District 2, 1 in District 4. So Mr. Brennan, we don't have anybody currently that lives in District 3. We also have 2 out of city. However, 1 works in District 1 and 1 works in District 2, and both have legal expertise. One has legal expertise and 1 is a social worker. So in addition to the applications we had, Mayor and members of City Council, we are also recommending there be 4 appointments that are made by recommendations from different organizations in our community. And then again, council members can add to this list over the next couple weeks, or even in the next couple months if you find somebody that you feel would want to be appointed. So again, we view this as a committee that would be open, such as our other committees that would give us advice, and there is no limit on the number of people that we appoint.
The 2 things, I think the mission, and then obviously Constitution, we probably need to lay out what the number looks like. It could be as many as 1.
Yeah, I actually included the mission in her correspondence to the council.
Someone just asked the question, and maybe the number of members or the list of proposed members Mr. Rickman asked. Mr. McDowell is in first, and Mr. Davis.
Yes, Mr. Mayor and members of council, of course, I'm just simply going to say, yes, I'm going to support that. But I think in the future, we need to make this collaborative, and we need to make it inclusive enough so that when we get to the table again, we will not have to dabble through this conversation.
All right. Thank you, Mr. McDowell. Mr. Davis.
Yeah, I'd like to take a look at the list of recommendees. And I more than likely would like to also recommend someone from District 1.
We got we have 7 recommended names. Am I correct?
Yes, we do.
So
and all
Mr. Mayor, can we have a list of those names so that we're not duplicating persons perhaps in our district?
Yes, I can read them as well, but all of them were included in your packets that Ms. Jenkins sent out with your agenda packet. So we've all had them for the last few days. I do want to also mention that the process that we utilize for this is no different than the process we did for the Affordable Housing Task Force. But the names that we currently have applications for are Todd Shaw, who is a resident of District 4, Neki Shutt, who lives outside of the city, however, owns a house in District 3, Mr. Brennan, and is an attorney, and her office is in District 2. Dylan Gunnels, who lives in District 1. Tyson Lusk, who also lives in District 1. Darius Jones, who lives in District 2. Tanya Hatton, who lives out of the city, but is a social worker with Loredac. And her office is in District 2. Tara McCraven, who lives in District 1. So those are the appointees. Again, also, Mr. Mayor, members of City Council, we're recommending that we have 4 positions that are for organizations, and those organizations represented would be SC Pride, SC Equality, Black Pride, and SC United.
Thank you. Other questions?
I can resend all of it, so it'll be at the top of your inbox. But as Councilwoman Devine said, it is included, and that way you won't have to look for it.
Yeah. This is a wonderful list. I know almost every name on there of some of our leading citizens and thought leaders and leaders, quite frankly, in many different respects. So I support it. I also just want to harken back. Let's just make sure that as we establish committees, we haven't had committees, ad hoc committees forever, or the process, I should say, of having our standing committees. Let's jump through the hoops as we deal with these important issues so that everyone feels included. We probably, quite frankly, I'm not sure we actually need a cap on the number of folks here, but I think we should aspire at very least to have maybe 15 or more. So we've established just under half of those members, and then we can spend some time making sure that everyone might have some of their preferred picks considered by council as well. Ashley, please publish the call for applications. So we cast a very wide net as well. However, the motion before us is the establishment of the committee, and then we can take a separate vote up on the nominations. With the previous question, clerk call the roll.
Mr. Brennan,
Yes.
Mr. Rickman,
Aye.
Mr. McDowell,
Yes.
Mr. Duval,
Aye.
Ms. Devine,
Aye.
Mr. Davis,
Aye.
Mayor Benjamin.
Aye. The previously articulated names from Councilwoman Devine, I would take them as a slate. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Rickman.
I guess my only concern here is that I looking through my email, I don't know if I ever got exactly what we asked the committee to do and all the membership. I know Ms. Devine just read it to us, but I didn't get any of those emails, and maybe I'm having an issue on mine, but can we get that out to everybody?
Ashley is gonna send it.
I'm not sure what what we're expecting people to do. So, and I'm glad we have somebody from District 4, but it'd be great if y'all could send that out, because I just looked, I don't have it anywhere.
Daniel, that was one of the reasons I asked the question. I had not received an email, and it would be good if we could revisit the information line and resend that back to us again.
Absolutely. So it was initially included in the agenda packet, and the original, ma'am?
1 second, dear. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor and Ms. Devine, would it be
I
okay?
can't hear you.
Would it be okay for the establishment today and the appointment on the next meeting? Are you wanting to make these appointments as well? I'm just sensing there's the need for everyone to be able to review everything.
Everyone wants to go up to speed. I'm fine either way.
And if I missed it, I just didn't see it anywhere. I saw that Tamika and Howard were establishing it, but I didn't see any of the kind of onset of what our mission was there. So we could get that just to clarify and just know, and then we'll move it forward.
Yeah, Daniel, that's when I said that one, that would have been with the agenda. So Ashley said she was going to resend it, but it's in your agenda packet. It has the mission and the applications of the 7 people. Well, actually, I think it only has applications of 6 because one of them we got today.
Thank you.
All right, so I'm fine with holding the appointments till next week. I'm not sure unless there's something urgent happening. I think you have a working group going already. Let's move. Let's have a quick turnaround. Everyone put a little bit of speed behind maybe getting some folks to submit applications. Get something out today, Ashley, and we'll have the formal appointment at the next meeting. Are
Yes.
y'all okay? Are we all on one accord? The committee has been established. Let's recirculate all the information, the committee, the purpose, the initial applicants, and the council. We passed unanimously. I think on prior to that, let's go ahead and be aggressive in getting some additional applicants to serve on the committee. Right now, I think we're not dealing with any cap on the number of potential citizens serving, but I think that at least 15 is a good number. So more than half of the folks are not included in this first slate. Thank you, Ms. Wilson. I think we voted on the establishment of the committee. We're going to hold on the appointments. All right.
Thank you, Ashley.
Thank you, Ms. Teresa.
Thank all of y'all.
Yes, yes, sir. The next appointment is for the Design Development Review Commission. I'm not sure if it's more than one, Ashley.
It is. There are currently 2 vacancies. One vacancy is to fill the architect with historic preservation experience, and the second vacancy is for an architectural historian. In your packet, there's more specifically one candidate that fits the description of architectural historian, which is pretty defined. Their name is listed. And then there are 2 candidates that fit the bill of an architect with historic preservation experience. One is explicitly on their application, and the other it's seen in the wealth of experience listed in their CV.
Articulate, let's go ahead and share those names. Ashley, would you please?
Okay, the architect with historic preservation experience, the 2 that seem to best fit are Jerome Keith Simons, is explicitly written on his application and listed, and as well as Mary Beth Branham, who has a wealth of experience listed in her CV that's attached. And the architect for, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Okay, go ahead. No, go ahead. Finish it. I apologize.
And then for the architectural historian, the candidate is Sean Collins Tucker, who's specifically a architectural historian.
So they articulated this role, and do they meet the qualifications as determined by our staff?
Yes, they do. The Sean Collins Tucker is it enlisted experience, as well as Mary Beth Brannon list in her CV, and then Jerome Keith Simon. He's the only one that did not include a CV as well.
Yeah, Mr. Rickman, the camera's up. I think I saw your hand go up. I'm a big fan of Mary Beth Brannon, by the way. I think she'd be an asset.
Yeah, my only thing I was looking at and actually is that there's no representation on the DDRC currently from District 4. That's what is listed on what I received, and I want to also clarify that the ACE applications were there. The memo around it's what I'm missing. But what I saw earlier today on the DDRC was there was no representation from District 4.
I know with DDRC, the representation is obviously important, but they are focused specifically on, with DDRC, you have to fill those specific positions. So the primary focus is finding specifically an architectural historian and specifically an architect with the historic preservation experience. And that's the primary concern.
Yeah. I understand that, but when I look at it, when District 3 has 4 representatives on the DDRC, and District 1 only has, District 2 only has 1, and 0 from District 4, it just is a little bit of concern. And I don't know how you remedy that, because you do have those specifics, but I think we need to make sure in the future that it is equal.
I'm interested in moving forward. Ms. Branham, Daniel, do you want to take?
I second that nomination, Mayor.
Do you want to take some leave to spend some time finding an architectural historian in District 4? Maybe between now and
I'll try. It come up empty, but I'll at least try because it is very specific.
Yeah, I know.
Daniel, I think you do have one from District 4 that you assigned, Mr. Wolf, when you assigned him. It's just not marked here. If if I'm remembering right. Mr. Taylor Wolf from District 4. But actually, if you could just check on his residential address.
I'm fine with however you guys want to approach this.
You just confirm, and I'll take a look to see, but I'm fine with moving forward.
I move the nomination of Mary Beth Brown.
And now second.
Any discussion? Move the previous question. Clerk call roll.
Mr. Brennan,
Yes.
Mr. Rickman,
Aye.
Mr. McDowell,
Yes.
Mr. Duval,
Aye.
Mr. Vine,
Aye.
Mr. Davis,
Aye.
Mayor Benjamin.
Aye. So do you want, do I sense unreadiness on the next appointment, or is there a nomination? Dan, you want to do a
Well,
deeper
can
dive?
we confirm that we have Taylor Wolf correctly?
We do have Taylor Wolf. When he applied, the only address provided was his work address. So I had it based on what was in our files. I will update it and reach out to him to find out his personal address.
Yeah, we got time. We'll leave applications or just post them again. Daniel, if you find some magic between now and when we bring it back up, we got a little.
Try.
Okay, all right. So we'll hold and we'll confirm also his residence in the interim. Okay. All right. All right. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
All right.
Other matters, item 32, council is asked to approve the Three Rivers Greenway addendum to the project agreement between the city of Columbia and Richland County. Hallelujah. I'm going to ask, sorry, I just had to say that. I'm going to ask Assistant City Manager Clint Shealy and perhaps Assistant City Manager Henry Simons to give you any feedback you may need, Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. The addendum to the intergovernmental agreement is something that we conceptualized probably about a year ago as we were looking to try to finalize the items associated with the Greenway. One of the components of the Greenway was an additional section of boardwalk that kind of bypasses the little walkway area that patrons are using that trespasses on railroad right-of-way. And so that was something that we wanted to kind of memorialize and get a commitment from the county that piece would be completed. It is nearing completion. It is not quite completed yet, but it is nearing completion. So through this addendum, we secured commitment that would actually be built and funded through the project. We also wanted to speak to some of the other amenities, and this speaks to the funding, the full $7.9 million and some change that would be used for this amenity in this project. So this secures that commitment as well. In terms of overall update, the Jordan portion easement has essentially been taken care of. There is remaining Boozer property deed that has to be conveyed from the county to the city. We heard that it may be as late as July before the county conveys that property to the city, but we're securing a letter of obligation from the county, or a letter of commitment from them saying that is coming. We worked with our legal team and they said that would suffice so that would not hold up any opening activities. So I believe that the additional parking that our public works staff and engineering design and public works staff constructed is essentially complete. I think there's addition of a few stop bars to be done there, but I think we're finally there. And so this addendum kind of helps close the door on that, and we can move forward to maybe some sort of public opening of the facility that has been used by the public for quite some time. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Awesome. Mr. Duval.
Mr. Mayor, I just want to congratulate the staff on finally getting this thing over the finish line. I know I have been a pest for at least a year now trying to get this thing open because so many people in all over the Midlands have been using it, and we have had a bar on already constructed parking lot and got a bar on one now that's ready to go. We need to get that thing open up. We need to get our rangers out there. We need to open up the bathrooms that are there that have not been available to the people. This is going to be one of the biggest draws for recreation in the Midlands that we've ever seen. And with the next phase that'll be talked about here in a little while, connecting across the Broad River to our riverfront walk, this is going to be a real jewel in the crown of the city of Columbia and in the Midlands for outdoor activity. I congratulate the staff, and I move we accept this addendum.
Amen. This and as you recognize, Howard, lots of moving parts, lots of interesting personalities, lots of talent, but staff stuck through it, and this is a big deal. So
it is a big deal. As Joe Biden would say, it's a big deal.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll second the motion, Mr. Duvall's motion. Any further discussion? We'll move to the previous question per call.
Mr. Brennan,
Yes.
Mr. Ricketson,
Aye.
Mr. McDowell,
Yes.
Mr. Duval,
Aye.
Mr. Vine,
Aye.
Mr. Davis,
Aye.
Mayor Benjamin.
Aye.
Many, many thanks to Clinton, Henry, and Chief Holbrook and others. Thank y'all.
Amen.
Mr. Mayor, at this point, you have a period of committee reports and referrals, sir.
Do we have any reports or referrals to committee? All right. Then any citizens who sign up for public input, Madam Clerk?
No, sir.
All right, Mr. Duval, you have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I move we
Sorry, was there someone reading this?
Well, no, sir. I just know you all mentioned earlier about or you did, sir, the economic.
Davis, yeah, Mr. Davis, thank you.
Yes, sir. And the only thing I'd say about that, Mayor, is we've had several presentations, I think, in regards to that subject matter. I mean, we're constantly updating the information, so we can certainly, do that again. I don't know if it'll be a lot of new information, but we can refresh what we can.
Can we maybe get some direction as to how the disparity study might inform the process going forward, help us continue to build up our core group of mentors and proteges?
Absolutely.
Maybe a report like that to Mr. Davis's committee. I don't think that needs a motion. Just that's an expectation. Okay.
No. Okay.
All right, Mr. Duval.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir, Mr. McDowell.
just before you do that, Howard, let me just state a word of personal privilege to all of our firefighters. As you know, there were 3 separate fires in one neighborhood last week, starting on Sunday. I had an opportunity to not meet with them, but to be with them on one of those fires. It is extremely important, and I keep raising this issue. It is extremely important that our firefighters, as courageous as they are, and the job they do, for them to get another set of equipment. We've talked about that. I just want to make sure we keep that on the front burner. I noticed with our firefighters, after 2 consecutive fires in one day, wearing the same uniforms without use of the extractors to extract some of those chemicals that's lodged in their equipment. I had an opportunity to see that, and I am amazed that they do the job in dirty equipment. So just want to keep it on the front burner. Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. McDowell. Mr. Rickman.
Yeah, before we go, I think, are we going into executive session? Is that the plan?
Yes, sir. That's the plan.
Yeah, so I'm curious why we have the conversion therapy on the executive session and why it wasn't put on the regular agenda. We've had the discussion publicly. I'm a little concerned that we're having this discussion behind closed doors. Is there a reason why we're having it in executive session?
Did you indicate you wanted it on the agenda, Mr. Rickenman?
I'm not the one who put it on here. I'm curious why on Thursday when I looked at the agenda, I didn't see it until today when I reviewed the agenda, because on Thursday it was not included on our review agenda.
Usually things are put in the executive session agenda when there's a legal matter to be discussed. You may remember that we had some interrupted dialogue at the last council meeting. If in fact you're ready for the item to be placed on the full agenda, indicate your willingness and we'll have it on the agenda. The plan was to continue to discuss legal issues and to have it on the agenda as soon as next Tuesday, which is what actually Mr. Duval and Ms. Devine and others wanted as of today. But if in fact your desire is to have it voted on immediately, then indicate your preference and we'll rock and roll.
Oh, it should be on the next agenda because we shouldn't put anything on agenda today.
So help me understand your question.
I'm trying to understand why is it placed on the executive? What are the legal issue? I'm confused because we already had this come forward.
Do you remember the last conversation regarding legal issues? Do you remember the disagreement?
On which part? I guess I think there was.
I think this is why it's an executive session, Mr. Rickenman.
We'll stoke your memory in executive session. Mr. Duval?
Mr. Mayor, I will make a motion that we go into executive session for receipt of legal advice related to matters covered by attorney-client privilege pursuant to SC Code 30-4-78-2, COVID-19, event resolutions, conversion therapy. A discussion of negotiations instance of proposed contractual arrangement pursuant to SC Code 30-4-78-2, 2221 Vine Street. Discussion of compensation of employee pursuant to 30-4-78-1, city manager, city attorney, and discussion of employment of an employee pursuant to SC Code 30-4-78-2, municipal court.
Is there a second? I'll second it. In the discussion period, I want to make it clear that we are open to the open, clear, transparent discussion of any issues, including waiving privilege, which is our prerogative to discuss any issues before. But however, if there are legal issues to be discussed that might manifest itself in litigation, it's also our responsibility to have those discussions with our legal counsel. If in fact we ever want to waive privilege, that is our prerogative and we should do so. But I don't want anyone to misinterpret the questions being asked here or the answers being given as to try and want to avoid public discussion around issues that are not legal issues. More than happy to have a full discussion, even including waiving privilege on this agenda or any agenda in the future, including next week's agenda. Just want to make that crystal clear. I'll move the previous question. Clerk, call the roll.
Mr. Brennan?
Yes.
Mr. Rickenman?
No.
Mr. McDowell?
Yes.
Mr. Duval?
Aye.
Mr. Vine?
Aye.
Mr. Davis?
Aye.
Mayor Benjamin?
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And I do want, we've had a long meeting thus far, still a ways to go. I do want to thank you all for unanimously voting in favor of the AIDS Committee. This is obviously a big move forward on the first day of Pride Month, and it shows that there will be clear progress on continuing to improve our HRC score and advance in the interests of all of our citizens. Madam Clerk, please let us know when the time is appropriate to discuss the issue.
Take up your last two items under event resolutions. And again, as we always note, the safety plans are in place for these resolutions through the event organizers and working with our police department. Item 36 is resolution number R 2021-058, authorizing consumption of beer and wine only within Boyd Plaza adjacent to the Columbia Museum of Art for Celebrate the Light fundraiser on Saturday, June 26, 2021.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? We'll move the previous question. Clerk call the roll.
Mr. Brennan,
Yes.
Mr. Rickman,
Aye.
Mr. McDowell,
Yes.
Mr. Duval,
Aye.
Mr. Vine,
Aye.
Mr. Davis,
Didn't hear you,
Aye.
Mr. Davis. Aye.
Mr.
I'm
Davis.
sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Davis.
I said aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Aye, Madam Clerk. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 37 is resolution number R 2021-068, amending 2021-035, first Thursdays on Main 2021.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Want to thank the Chief of Police and City Manager for working through this. And we're gonna continue to enjoy First Thursdays, and everybody step up to the plate and be responsible citizens. We'll move to the previous question. Clerk call the roll.
Mr. Brennan,
Yes.
Mr. Rickman,
Aye.
Mr. McDowell,
Yes.
Mr. Duval,
Aye.
Mr. Vine,
Aye.
Mr. Davis,
Aye.
Mayor Benjamin.
Aye.
Mr.
Thank you.
Mayor,
We still
I
have-
move-
Let the public know we still have some executive session items to resolve. We wanted to come and get those out for the public to consume.
I move
Thank
we
you.
return to executive session.
Is there a second?
Second.
We'll move the previous question. Clerk call the roll.
Mr. Brennan,
Yes.
Mr. Rickman,
Aye.
Mr. McDowell,
Yes.
Mr. Duval,
Aye.
Mr. Vine,
Aye.
Mr. Davis,
Aye.
Mayor Benjamin.
Aye.
Thank you.